I'm not a voodoo practitioner, so I can't really speak on that. I am a witch and I practice witchcraft, and I can tell you a little bit something about my culture that might mirror the difference between voodoo and witchcraft. So, I'm Puerto Rican. In my culture, we have Santeria, we have Espiritismo, and we have Brujeria. And those are basically spiritual practices that are outside of your typical organized religion. And they do have differences. For instance, for you to be a practitioner of Santeria, you have to go through a process. You have to, and I'm not going to speak too much on it, but basically, you have to go through a year-long process and you have to be initiated into that practice. Now, if you are going to practice espiritismo, you don't necessarily have to be initiated. Some people have mentors that will help them bring them in, and there are going to be practices that look very similar to Santeria, but it's not Santeria. Okay. And then you have brujeria, which is witchcraft. And sometimes in brujeria, you have a mentor, but not necessarily. There's not a, um, there's not like this ceremony into this. And because of like our culture, some people have been like compelled to leave the island for whatever reason, from one reason to another. That's a whole nother story about colonization we're not going to talk about right now. But sometimes you have a mentor and sometimes you don't. And so when you're looking at witchcraft and voodoo, the reason that you are probably identifying these two together is because of media. Media demonizes both of these. When we see scary witchcraft, these are what people identify with. That they identify, especially if it's like an indigenous practice, they're going to identify it with like voodoo. If it's spells and all that stuff, they're going to identify it with witchcraft. And that's probably why in your mind they might be closely related, and they are working with spirits and working with energy, but they're just different spiritual practices. I hope that helps. Go ahead on Voodoo Talk and ask somebody over there. Okay, bye.